I would love for you to talk me through this because this is pretty relevant. So this is an open source project that they've published relatively recently, the LangChain guys. And when they do this, they're basically building these agents so that people like us, developers, can see what can be built, right? And their recommended architecture based on their expertise with the platform, or the framework.
Yeah, they're really good about when like OpenAI or someone comes out with something that makes a big splash, they turn around and create like an open source version of it, pretty much.
The open version. Yeah.
Yep.
So whenever there's like, they did with computer use, like the demo that I showed you a couple of weeks back. This one is basically a replication of ChatGPT, Google Gemini, equivalent. This will be interesting because I was literally just chatting to the guys over when I had lunch there with them. I think they're working on an update or an upgrade to this, and we were talking through some of these trade-offs and how the architectures work to trying to compare the architecture of, say, the Gemini deep research approach, which apparently is pretty basic and very sequential, to the more complicated ones like the Claude or the OpenAI ones.
I think what's really cool about this for a demonstration is that it's not just one pattern necessarily. There are 3 different designs here. So you can see that I've got it broken up by workflows, and then there's a multi-agent version. The big difference is the multi-agent version allows you to basically converse with an agent about the subject and start really develop what it is you want to do the research on. And then it goes into the multi-agent workflow and works with multiple specialized agents like, citations agent, stuff like that. So I'll spin this up and show you. It's pretty straightforward to set up to get installed. I don't know if you care to, I guess I can't really do it from scratch because I already set it up, but.
No, we can share the instructions in the link.
Yeah.
If you just follow those, there's plenty of tutorials online that talk through this. They've probably also got one that goes through the process. So yeah, spin it up and show it to us. So just to clarify, did you set it up as the supervisor, like that kind of interaction pattern one, or as the more basic, like just do some research, split it out by sections, and then combine into the final version?
Well, that's the cool part is you don't have to spin up different. It's all part of the same. Well, they're separate graphs, but it's all the same application. When I run LangGraph dev, we have the ability to switch between all 3 of them. So got to activate the virtual environment first. I started getting this upgrade error. I guess I thought I did that earlier, but anyways. So Tom, this is what I meant. I just spun up I just hit LangGraph dev and now have the option to select between these 3 different graphs. So when I select these, that's what's awesome about LangGraph is the visual aspect is really helpful. So here we have the ODR workflow. And when I was running this with as an MCP tool with Claude, this is the right way because this is just a workflow. So Claude kind of does that conversational planning and then kicks it into the workflow once we're ready. So we'll start with the workflow. On this one, we will just give it a topic. So let's say Google Gemini CLI. So here you can see each step along the way. So it's going to generate the report plan, and then it will give us a chance to provide input. What was that?
So it basically converts it into some form first. So there's a chain of there's a chain behind that. Yeah. Here are the thinking traces.
Yeah. Sorry, it jumped.
This is sick. I love watching this stuff.
I'll let this finish and then we can walk through it.
Yeah, this is great. Can you click on one of the summary, one of the items? Just open up one of those so you can see. What's the search API they're using Tavily?
Well, that's cool. That's a cool part as well. They've set this up so that you can use basically any, as far as I'm concerned, any search provider. And I'll show that you can configure that in the GUI here. You don't even have to change the code.
Right.
Maybe
Just on
while
that,
that's
while you're
running
pulling
it.
that up, that was the most amazing thing about the answer engine optimization presentation that we were talking about at the start of the episode. So ChatGPT is optimized for, it uses Bing, the Bing API, search API. And so one of the biggest things is basically just optimize for Bing search. So we're just going to sit like Bing is just going to be like one of the most important products that you can possibly engage with and sense check and get to know how the API works, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So while that's running, I just started a new session here, but you can see if you spin this up and then you select your graph that you want to work with, then down here, this button that says manage assistance. This is where you can actually create different versions that use different um, search providers. You can even go between Anthropic, OpenAI, or other providers as well. I think by default they had Grok also set up.
This is rad. So they've got, all right, clarify with users on the sections, clarify with the user yes or no. That's really cool.
Yep. And the other thing that's worth pointing out here is you see this says summarization model. It's set to Claude Haiku.
Mm.
And then further down, you have Planner, right? So we have all these different models, and we talked about that with OpenAI, right? You have to kind of understand what all these different models do, and they're particularly good at certain things. So if you understand what models are good at different things, you can set them up to be specialized. And also, um, there's cost considerations there as well, right? So that's why up here you might use Haiku for the
Yeah, for
summarization.
summaries, yeah.
Yeah, the summarization is going to take a lot of text and condense it down. The smaller models are totally capable of summarization. And then when you use your more expensive and capable models, um, you want them to be more like the reasoning steps, right? So
What is the model? Can you clarify what the model KWAG is? Do you know what that is? Or some of these other settings like recursion limit says the number of structured output retries, all of those sorts of things. Is that if it fails, like failovers and how many times it should dare just to do something before just throwing an error?
yeah, that's exactly what it like max structured output retries. If it errors, how many times do you want to keep doing that? I mean, I think you could set this as high as you would like, but then if it just keeps going in a loop and
Yeah,
erring,
just
you might
take a
spend
timeout.
$70. And I think that was last time. And for anyone who watched the last episode, I had a scare and I thought it charged like $70 for one run. It actually didn't. It was a bunch of failures that just kept running in the background. Um, yeah, and you said, I mean,
And
there are a
underneath
lot
each
of
model,
settings. That's why initially when I opened this up, I thought it was a simple demo, but it's actually a lot. You have so many different configuration options. Can really repurpose this for whatever you'd like. All right, so let's go back and see what we got. I don't see any errors. That's always good. Okay.
so this is the structured like report based on, just saying Google Gemini CLI. Can you go to the report and just look at it? Look at it for a second.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
This
So there's all
section.
these different hierarchies, and it's kind of a pain to click through. But this is not how you would actually use this. This is a development tool, right?
Yeah, of course. It's very cool.
So I believe this is this is the final output, practical applications for developers. See, this is not as detailed as what I would have expected, but I'm looking for where it shows each section. Mm. And if you don't know, you can adjust the granularity of these traces with this slider
Oh, that's
here.
cool.
So that's really helpful. Maybe I just don't have it.
What are you looking for?
I was looking for the final report. So I'll just jump over to the chat window. And that's also pretty awesome how you can switch between this graph view and this chat. As you can see, once you go through so many different steps, it gets a little bit hairy. So if you jump over to the chat view, it's a little bit easier to read. Okay, so I think this is the final output. And as you can see,
in that chat, like in this chat interface, say this is like what you were looking at when you published the system, right? So if you were to put this on a website or put it in a product, if you chat with that, does it then rerun the research process, or is it then an end state, which is just returned to just the chat model? So you can just ask questions and it will return like basically to return from the context of what its output, or is it actually like, all right, now does it just go back through the graph?
You're saying so this is a workflow, right? So this one will basically, I believe that would start back at the generate report plan. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's just gonna generate again, right?
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to recall, and then that's where the multi-agent workflow. We'll show that next.
Just click cancel. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, so change the model, like change the architecture. I'm keen to see. Can you just start a new session now?
And I set this up on the cloud as well. I don't remember how much I modified it, so I wasn't going to show that necessarily, but we have that set up on our.
It's in the build demos.
Yep.
Toolkit.
Yeah, like
link on the website. Right. Cool.
Well, we'll just show this real quick. So this is the same exact workflow that I just ran through, but this is more like what it would look like in a typical client application.
Yeah.
Oh, come back to that. So, all right. So let's do the multi-agent workflow. So Tom, what's something you want to know more about?
Let's keep it on the AI engineering front, and maybe plug in most recent developments and approaches to context engineering as a practice, and see what it picks up. I'm really keen to also see like what the AI kind of evaluation and ranking on search of some of the blog posts that we've talked about, because it's like a relatively recent discussion point.
Yeah.
Like, does it pick that stuff up?
Okay, so you saw it went from start to the supervisor, and then the supervisor has, as you can see, if I hover over, it has different tools that we'll call.
And when you hover over that, basically there is a relationship between the tools and also the research team. And this is the research team.
Sorry, it's hard to, it's like so much information. It's hard, you get kind of lost.
It's fast.
It's hard to talk and at the same time.
Can you expand what the research agent's doing? Just expand that so we can see it.
It's still,
it's not showing.
It's still going. So see how this, this section now is, why don't I see the entire thing? This is different than my query, right? So it interpreted my initial input, and then it said, okay, we're going to create a report with multiple different sections. And so what we should see here is a breakdown of basically the LLM generated queries or prompts for each section.
Got it. And then when it says fork 7 of 7, that's just the turns, right?
Yeah. So this is where you see some errors. Also with the Anthropic, I think Anthropic is configured with one of these, and I run into a bunch of rate limit issues with that. Is that what this is complaining about? Yeah. Rate limit.
Oh, so that's the sections architecture there.
Yeah. Okay. Now I can see the actual, like the full chain. Sorry about that. So I said, I want to learn about the most recent developments and approaches to context engineering. So then the supervisor agent hit Tavily, and it basically said the same thing, except it improved the prompt, optimized it for Tavily.
Then these are the sources, right? Sorry, you keep going there.
We see here how it actually provided a summary rather than just spitting out the entire And actually Tavily, maybe that was Tavily that provided only the response or the summary, I mean. So in this guide, I synthesize insights from foundational blog posts on the emergence of context engineering. And then it provides tons of information, tons and tons of information there. And they kicked it back to the supervisor. And then it says the evolution of context engineering, core principles of context engineering. It basically synthesized and regenerated that another prompt. I don't know if this will keep running. So now it's having the rate limit issues, which is interesting because I didn't think this one was actually set up with Anthropic, but let's see if we can just change it. I believe almost any model should work, but I know that by default it was using 4.0, so I'll just use 4.0 for now. All right, so it created it as a new assistant, so you can actually run multiple different versions. Whoops, start a new thread. Yeah, Tom, thanks for always for your patience. Like I said, running demos like this live, it's very dangerous.
That's all right. I have a feeling that the live demos we see on YouTube are heavily edited.
Yeah, exactly. We do it for real here at the build.
Well, you do, particularly these ones.
Well, it's also I've set it up so many different ways, and there are so many different combinations of how you can run these things that it's hard to remember.
What I'm really keen to understand is like the pass back in the communication between the supervisor and the sub agent, like the research team, to actually see some of the traces. Yeah, so
Yeah,
like
so
that
this is
handoff.
actually much, much better. Seems like it's running much more smoothly. Let's try the workflow.
So explain the difference in the architecture for this. What's
Yeah, so on
different to
this,
the multi-agent?
well, I didn't have a good example in the multi-agent. I'll try it again, or I'll snip it back in here. But what should happen is it comes back and it has like an interrupt step. So the multi-agent asks you along the way, hey, here's my plan so far. Does this sound good? Oh, I guess this one does too. So here, and it even says interrupt right here. So this is the human in the loop step. So it says, please provide feedback on the following plan. And it lists out the headings and the description of what it's going to output for the final plan on each section.
That's really cool.
So
is that in the actual assistant prompt? Like when you click on that, can you see what's actually programmed in that prompt? Because that's very different. Yeah, here. That's sort of different, like what people are used to with, say, OpenAI's one is it's like, I just want to ask a few clarifying questions first. And yeah, so it's like main body sections.
sorry, you were asking about the interrupt step?
Yeah, what I really want to understand is like, what is it? What's the prompt that's like, all right, is it as simple as like create the plan, then present the entire plan to the user? Or are there multiple steps? Like, is it more complicated than that? What's interesting about these tools is these deep research tools.
The interrupts are not going to be a prompt. They are.
No, yeah. It's like basically return this to the user for feedback, right?
Right, exactly.
But the initial prompt, so there must be an initial prompt that's like, just has that in there. Create the plan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. We can just say everything looks good or true, and then it will continue down that path. So I think, yeah, this is just one section. So you see it wrote that section. See, it's like so much output. It's really hard to analyze every step. But this is where if you're running this type of thing in production, you're not going to be analyzing traces manually like this. You would then use evaluations, and the cool thing is you could evaluate like each step along the way.
Yeah, it's great to see how it works under the hood, though. Like, I love actually seeing this. This is one of the benefits of, I think, LangGraph, right? Is you can actually dive into the component parts really easily in the UI.
Yeah, and actually the studio is cool and everything, but if you're looking at traces, the LangSmith view here is actually a lot better. So already when I look at the trace view here, you can see how many different steps. I mean, this is
Yeah. So explain
quite
this a bit. Like
crazy.
the traces, like what are we looking at? So that's a step in the graph, generate the
Yeah,
report plan.
this is every single step along the way. Whether it's tool call, agent transfer. I guess an agent transfer is a tool call in most cases, um, or like particular tool use. Tavily, that's a tool, so you can see all along the way, and then of course you can filter on any one of these items on the left. You can filter through and really evaluate like what are the tools doing, what kind of output am I getting. It's just I love this view. It's so much easier to read, um, and you see so many things that you would miss otherwise. So,
So that one you're on right there is like an evaluation,
well,
grade,
this is
fail,
not an
follow up queries.
evaluation.
Well, sorry, like
Sorry, what was it?
well, kind of like it's like I need to evaluate. It's like it's a prompt, but it's like I need to evaluate whether the provided section content adequately addresses the specified section topic. So it's kind of like how the assistant for that component part of the graph is structured within the code, but you don't have to actually go into the code. You can just see it here. And then this is the
Yep,
response, right?
exactly, exactly. And then
Yeah, this is really cool.
you can add these traces to you can create data sets or value. Like if I wanted to filter down and say like only show the errors, and then I want to only select those, and then I can hit add to data set, and then you can run evaluations, and that's where you can do things like we've talked about like LLM as a judge. So you have your AI, you have an LLMs uh, running the same prompts multiple times, and then you get the output, and then the LLM evaluates that output, and it tells you, uh, it grades it. So
Yeah, a simple way to use that in this context, right, would be run an evaluation on an LLM as a judge, defining its like how concise or how concise the report is, or how pleasant and easy is it to read, or its reading level grading, for example, like grade it to a reading level, and then you can use it to optimize the prompts within each part. Right?
yep, exactly, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's sorry for all the errors, but like I said, this project is actually a little bit of a beast, and hats off to the LangChain team because this is really cool. And like I said, you could repurpose this for so many different things, not necessarily just research. Um, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I would love to actually do that now that you've given me the demos, to try and like repurpose it for a specific occupational task, which is research bound. So for the use case I'm thinking of, maybe I can try and I'll do a counter demo where it's like a customization for you. But the use case I'm thinking of is I work in the real estate industry, and in specific contexts, it's very important to do a lot of heavy research, even if it's desktop research on certain locations or certain properties and a range of different data sets. But the output is actually kind of like a really long form report. If you think about like a commercial building and a property appraisal on a commercial building, it's actually kind of like a document output. It's not really like just charts and some numbers. So funneling those through and how well it could be optimized for an end person who might be need to do an evaluation on a property, that would be a great. That's just one use case of probably 100 I could think of that.
Yeah,
When you use
I
the
was
demo,
also I was doing a little bit of experimentation, and I won't I won't drag you through this one, but we talked about open agent platform. So this set this up. It's running hosted in the cloud, and with this, it's the no code uh, setup, so you can design different agents by giving them system prompts and access to tools and RAG essentially. So like, I don't know if this will work, but try it real fast. So we have these same different multi-agent and different workflows that we were running before. So if I were to add, I have to create. Basically, I was going to say is like if I add access to RAG and tools to these agents, so then I've just expanded on the capabilities, and we could do like search for information from my organization and then go research using that exact same design pattern. So very flexible, and there's just so many possibilities. It's just whatever your imagination, and not only your imagination, but um, designing them intelligently, right? Like not going too crazy because it can happen fast.
Well, that was basically the summary. The cognition one is like, just don't go nuts, right?
Yeah, right.
Just
So
ease up on the complexity. I'd love to be able to expose something like that over like internal data set or internal document set. Like even audit like there's so many reports and things that need to be written in organizations that are so boring and laborious and really hard. Like auditing board reports or financial audits. Like there's all sorts of stuff that people have to do. Providing like a summarization to bring on a new vendor or to become a vendor for someone, that I just wish there were agents for every company, for every person. Like that's a public service. I think, Cameron, you should create.
yeah, I mean I 100% agree with you.